Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome. Today I'm joined by Jason Drummond, who's founder and CEO at MedPal AI. How are you today, Jason?
I'm well, thank you, Zach.
A lot going on at MedPal at the moment. Last week we had news for the GLP-1 lovers. What have you got now?
Yeah, so we announced this week the launch of New Health on the kind of very short premium domain name new.co.uk, backed by a 1.3 million pound advertising campaign, a performance-based campaign, which is super exciting. It just sits alongside the existing MedPal app. MedPal is very much about everyday medicines. We do NHS and private prescriptions, but we felt that the opportunity in GLP-1s, particularly on weight loss, is so significant that we needed to create a unique brand to get us the best possible return on marketing spend. We recently raised £3 million with a new broker, and we committed 1.3 million of that 3 million into this campaign.
Right. So is this your goal here? Is it really a land grab in the market to be a big, significant player in the market?
Yeah, the plan is to be top three. That there are a number of. It's quite fragmented, as you probably are aware. The market's fairly new. GLP-1s were licensed only a short time, a number of 2 or 3 years ago. So it's a relatively new market, but we see huge potential. And in fact, what we're also seeing in the summer, you've got. I don't know if you know much about the GLP-1s. I guess most people do now. But these are injectables. They're effectively a peptide. In the summer, we're going to see the first pill. We believe it was approved. Eli Lilly basically had a product. Wegovy had a product approved in the US, so we think that will be coming to the UK in the summer. So huge opportunity. The information in the US is that 2 out of 3 new people buying into the pill, they're new to GLP-1. So it's not cannibalizing injectables; it's just expanding the market.
Right. I mean, speaking of the market, as an investor in MedPal, probably people want to know what are the barriers to entry. Is competition cutthroat, margins, all those sorts of things?
Well, firstly, you need to. It's a regulated industry, so we actually have 2 DSP licenses. These are great things to own, as you can't get them anymore. They enable you to basically ship medication across the country. We've been investing very heavily in the 2 warehouses, distribution centres. We have one up north near Liverpool in Runcorn, one in Norfolk. So we've been investing very heavily in those facilities. It's competitive, but we see a market is expanding dramatically. I think in the UK and European peptides, about 18 billion this year and growing very quickly. We have direct relationships, by the way, with Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. They're the 2 biggest players in GLP-1s and peptides. We have direct relationships with them.
Well, going on to that, or following on from that, clearly being a public company, a listed company, is an advantage. I presume it means that you can use your paper if you want to acquire other businesses and obviously, spend money on expansion, etc., etc. Is that as big an advantage as it sounds?
Yes, absolutely. We are actually, if you're a believer in GLP-1s and peptides, we're the only public company in the UK currently in that market. So that's an interesting position to be in. Our feeling is that as the companies like HIMSS and other companies will start accelerating away from the pack, as we hope to do, that will create some acquisition opportunities as people are getting left behind. But with an existing customer base, I'm sure we'll be looking for a good home. So absolutely, we're looking at opportunities now.
Right, and the other thing that follows from an investor perspective, perhaps, is that GLP-1 is the rock and roll at the moment, but maybe in 6 months or 18 months, it isn't rock and roll. How are you going to stabilize your business and make sure that it's not vulnerable to the slings and arrows of changing fortunes and tastes?
Well, I think firstly, we're approaching it from a very different perspective. We started life very much in wellness. We have an app that collects all of your health data from your connected health devices. So we come at it from a very different perspective than most of the other competitors. So we have all your information. We know we know your BMI. We know a huge amount of information from those devices. So we're coming at it slightly differently. With the direct relationship with Lilly and Novo Nordisk, we're also looking at some of the new products which are coming through. There's a product called retatrutide, which is the first in-class triple agonist, which basically is getting incredible results, both around sleep apnea, liver disease, a whole bunch of other issues. So I think what you're going to see is a whole bunch of other peptides coming into the market, not only just specifically for weight loss, but just really around longevity. So we're going to make sure we're positioned with an absolute brilliant brand, new.co.uk, New Health, specifically for that market and opportunity.
Right, and let's say everyone in the country decides that they want a weight loss jab. Do you have the capacity to deal with high demand?
So we've now running two facilities, nearly 30,000 square feet of state-of-the-art dispensing capability. We've basically invested very heavily in automation. So we have a German robotic system called a VMAX 160, which basically can pick around 300 prescriptions an hour, where if you look at traditional pharmacy, typically a pharmacist would be 10 to 15 minutes per prescription. So we've been investing very heavily in our infrastructure. And you may have seen we launched our business. We were when we came to the market in the summer, we were pre-revenue. We launched our service at the end of October, going to November. We basically I think within 16 weeks, we processed over 200,000 orders. We're processing over 40,000 orders basically a month, and it's growing very rapidly without any problem. So we're very confident that we've got the facilities. We've invested very heavily in them to make sure we can cope with the anticipated demand.
Yeah, and the other point that comes from that is, do you regard this the business that you're in as being a sticky business in terms of clients staying with you for an extended period of time? Do you regard it as being something which is not sensitive to the state of the economy, cost of living, etc.? How does that sort of fit in your mind?
Well, it's a very good question. I think that the way that we see it's a new. Basically, GLP-1s and peptides are a new type of a medicine. These are elective peptide medicines that predominantly are prescribed privately. It's medication that you don't necessarily need, but people are obviously choosing. What's interesting, 2 million people in the UK are already taking GLP-1s, getting amazing results, weight loss results. But it's estimated that in the UK population, around 25 million adults are overweight or in an obese category. So that means this market's got a huge amount further to go. But what's also really interesting about the customer is it's a subscription business. So for example, New Health is effective. It's a consumer subscription business. Typically, the average revenue per user, or we say the average revenue per patient, is 150 to 250 pounds per patient per month. It's very much marketing led. It's quite high margin, in fact. Initially, it's quite competitive acquiring customers, but it really is a subscription business. We understand the cost of acquisition, the kind of payback we need, and we have a very experienced marketing team that's going to make sure we get our share of new customers.
And I think the last negative thing I can think of is if all of a sudden the NHS decided to pay for everyone's Mounjaro, etc. How would that affect you?
Fantastic. We've got two NHS contracts. We love the NHS. It's one of our biggest customers. We would supply either under NHS or privately. We're in a unique position because most of our competitors don't have NHS contracts. We just picked up Care UK, one of the biggest care operators in the UK. We're now servicing over nearly 100 Care UK homes. That's all NHS prescribing. So we have two NHS contracts. We've got two big warehouses. We love NHS. We love private and NHS. Not a problem for us.
Glad somebody does. I don't think I've got any more mud to throw at you on this one. I'll just have to get an order of Mounjaro from you after the interview. But well done on the recent news flow, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Zach.